Guess I'm up next. That was great. So hi, I'm Christian Hubicki. I'm an assistant professor at Florida State University, one of 3 Florida State University faculty over here, I want to point out. And I want to talk about fast algorithms to think on your feet. Seemed appropriate. Because in bipedal locomotion, we don't have much time to react. We have to know what to do as quickly as we can to be able to react and not fall down. And for me, that takes me to the realm of optimization. Particularly, I'm talking real-time, model-based, loud optimization, right? So real-time, I think it's something in the order of 100 to 1,000 hertz. That's what we generally consider real-time in robotics. And what can we do that gets us up to that speed? And for those unfamiliar who have never gotten to this world before, just the magic buzzword is quadratic programs, or QPs. If you have an optimization with a quadratic cost, linear constraints, it can solve really fast in the loop and make it do cool calculations. Many people here are using it. They're awesome. You can use it for planning. This is often a baseline thing that we'll start with for using model predictive control, where we'll start with drones because they're a little easier to deal with. And this is our obstacle avoiding drone planner. So we turn this into a QP. It solves really quickly, moves around fast. And for those who don't know what MPC is, it's just a really fast trajectory optimization. Here you can see the blue drone smart with our MPC, and it's dodging around, moving like that. So you can fit that into a fast-thinking algorithm, right? Pretty cool stuff that my students did. You can also do some simple forms of learning on the fly. In particular, what I talked about last year a lot was risk. Learning sources of risk on the fly. If you have some kind of failure that occurs, you build some kind of model, which I treat probabilistically, of failure. You regress really fast, and then you react to it really quickly. So what I specifically do is we have a failure probability function that we turn into linear constraints. There's the lines, hence linear. And what you can do with it is you take that same blue drone, you play the same game of tag, but you don't tell it it's playing tag. That red drone just gets close, we tell it failed, that yellow spike was it failed, and then it quickly regressed within a few milliseconds, and then all of its planning is now failure aware. So that's something you can do at a high level, but also, of course, we want this up to work at we want it to work on a whole body for a biped, right? So here's our Cassie biped, and so we use operational space control, similar in flavor to a lot of the kinds of control you'll see for the humanoids and such. And we put this all together for obstacle avoidant dynamic obstacles with Cassie. Here's our simulation results with some moving obstacles. Here's some hardware results where I have a fictitious obstacle that we spawn on Cassie. And it actually dynamically assesses whether it should stand or walk or get away. And when it's actually, when it realizes it's safe to stand again, it'll just stand again, right? These are all sort of a series of things you can do as quadratic programs that solve in a few milliseconds, all in a chain so that they can go in real time. But this talk is called Algorithms That Think on Your Feet. So let's think about the feet for a minute here. This is the big pivot from my talk I wanted to talk about this year. I haven't talked about much. I have a student who's doing cool stuff with curved contact rolling and how surprisingly difficult it was. I thought it was going to be a very simple task for him, and then it became his thesis. So basically, it all started with this project that we had for trying to, with the companies, actually with Jonathan over there, for creative ways to combine wheels, tracks, and legs. So we could have some kind of goofy automobile going over stuff, right? But my job is often to figure out how to do the motion for it, the control. And so naturally, we have to fold this curved contact into our algorithms. But this actually creates some challenges with rolling, particularly one, we have to figure out how the tread can actually have inertia and kick back, and that was actually pretty cool. We had these little, we actually included an inertia of the tread in the Lagrangian dynamics, so it does this cool kickback when it rolls if you have a tread. If you have non-circular geometries, things start to get a little tricky. For instance, you have to think about the no-slip condition, which has to do with how much you traverse distance as you're rolling. For instance, for a wheel, you would like to know what the perimeter of it is. Thank you. The perimeter of it is, what's the perimeter of a circle, everybody? Pi times d. Thank you. All right. Well, what about an ellipse? Let's squish it a little bit so that way we have something tread-like. So, anyone know? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. It's an impossible integral. Look it up, okay? So, all right, so you have to come up with clever ways to work around that you can't take that integral. So any solution that we came up with had to find some workarounds. They're not even like Ramanujan's approximation that we're using, but that way you have elliptical treads when you're moving around. And interestingly, a sort of a third thing that we ran into, that was a tricky thing, was arbitrary curve on arbitrary curve rolling, so that way you have this model inside of your optimization, okay? And because those are all flat terrain, those are all flat, lines and stuff. So So what we ultimately, my student told me, this is actually trickier than I thought. He said, he had a puzzle for me. He said, okay, let's say I give you a coin, okay? All right, there's a coin, it's a quarter, okay? And this is called the coin rolling paradox, where if you rotate that coin 360 degrees, but you have it roll along an equivalent coin, what is the arc like traversed? How far is it going to go if it rotates 360 along that coin? Anyone want to take a guess? It's going to roll full perimeter along its own thing. Is it going to go all the way around? Okay, well, it's a paradox. Well, I know there's a trap, right? So what happens is you might assume that it's going to go the whole way around, but it actually goes halfway around, okay? And that's because the angle of contact is also changing as well. That actually influences the calculation. This actually led to a major mistake on the SATs in the 1980s that forced the SATs to retract the question because they got this wrong. So, all right, so it's a paradox. So the solution that my student Mane came up with was to actually come up with a dynamic formulation with two extra coordinates. Here's your three body coordinates, x, y, and theta, just in 2D. And then you have this theta and phi, which are basically the angle of contact and some parameterization of the arc length. Okay, and he came up with this solution, and he got it to work. So here we go. So here is some crazy arbitrary surfaces that I made in the middle of the night, and he made them work. Okay, and we are able to fit them all into a QP. So these dynamics of control are fully aware of the wacky contact. That is actually Steve Collins' robot foot from the 2005 paper I recreated there. So what the idea is, not only can we do control that with leg locomotion that's aware of the curvature of the feet, I think that now that we've parameterized this in this nice kind of closed form way, we can also maybe do some design analysis. That's what I want to work towards next. So that's what we're working toward there. And I want to thank you all for your time. I'm happy to take your questions. Glad that was all clear. You can all reproduce my work easily.
Can I just make a comment? And
Yes, please.
Somebody can just tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But every time I've asked people who make dynamic simulators,
Yes.
can you do rolling of non-round objects? 100% of the time they say no.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just pointing out that you're doing something. In principle, it's 19th century stuff, but as far as I know, it's not in codes.
I'm glad you agree, because I feel like a crazy person for a long time. Because a lot of the ways, the ways that people do simulations, I tell my friends about this, and they're like, I played Zelda. There are things rolling on other things all the time in Zelda. You know what I'm talking about. So, but like the way that they often, a lot of simulators, they treat it as a mesh and as a contact problem. So you have different points of your mesh will contact the different points in a roll. Okay, and I'm riffing on your question, Andy. I apologize. And so basically treated lots of contacts in a row, and contact, to use a technical term, sucks. Okay, and to compute by comparison. So if you turn it into a pure rolling problem, it can be potentially more computationally efficient. And for us, what matters is it fits in time inserted inside of a model-based controller. Yes, in the back.
Yes, I want to thank you for talking, but I want to nitpick on your definition of real time to be 100%.
Okay, I knew this was coming. Go on.
It's about making the deadline, not how fast. Not web development.
Technically, yes. So it is technically true. So real time for a chemical power plant is an hour, right? Which better be done in that hour, right? So that's a fair point. Specifically in the context of robotics, you're absolutely right. Learn from my mistakes, or at least...
Can you explain what his point was?
So his point is real time is all about making sure that you get the computation done in time, not hanging there waiting for an answer. Now, in principle, so as opposed to like online, means that you're just doing it on board the robot. It's fast enough that you can do a calculation to respond to the current situation. Which, if it's a QP, you could probably get it close to real time concern, in terms of hitting it hard, but to me it means fast. So, thank you. All right, looks like I bored everybody. Let's go on to the next one. Yes?
So how do you think we scale for dynamics where you consider contact with friction?
So that's what we're working on now. And so I think that if
Repeat the
we...
question, please.
So the question was how to scale with friction, and that's always an issue. That's an issue with complementarity models as they become non-convex with a lot of friction stuff. Because we just have to detect friction, I think it would be okay, as opposed to having to necessarily predict through a frictional contact change. So this should work okay. So if it works in the current moment, if we know we're sliding or sticking, it should not change the overall computational capabilities. But if we are predicting through contact, through frictional modes, then that's still a hard problem. Yeah.
When you say you do rolling as a QP,
Yeah.
you mean you can approximate it as a QP, or literally it becomes a quadratic program?
Meaning that the dynamics that I get, the true dynamics as defined by a non-slip condition in rolling, I can formulate as a QP without, with the only approximation is rigid body dynamics. How about that? And on top of that, it can fold inside of a control computation. All right. Thank you all very much.